Team USA has clinched a spot in the Four Nations Faceoff Championship game. And I know this is like an all-star thing and it's not huge, but first best on best international hockey in 9 years. And the US beat Canada Saturday night, 3-1 at the Bell Center. Walk into your trap, take over your trap. Welcome back, everyone. Mozarsky Memos, episode 29. It's going to be a shorter one today. Like I said, a bunch of teams are and leagues are in all-star breaks, the NHL, NBA, both in their all-star breaks. We could talk about that really fast, and we will. New York Jets officially moving on from Aaron Rodgers. That'll be our other subject. We got more spring training stuff coming on the way. That will be our two for the day. Let's go USA as always. And so let's do it. So let's get into it. Like the first thing I said that I was going to talk about was USA versus Canada and just this Four Nations face-off in general. But before I talk about this, round of applause to the NHL because the NHL, unlike the NFL, MLB, and NBA, maybe not the MLB, but definitely the NBA and NFL, their all-star format, they take it seriously. And I know this isn't an all-star game. The Four Nations face-off has been replaced, or it was replacing the all-star game, but these players care. These players are willing to put their bodies on the line for their countries. You see this 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of USA Canada last night. Starts with Matthew Tkachuk versus Brandon Hagel 2 seconds in. They hype up the crowd. Then you get Brady Tkachuk against Sam Bennett. Then 7 seconds later, JT Miller against Colton Parayko. JT Miller, the Ranger, New York represent right there. These players care about playing for their country, and there's a reason why. NHL players haven't been allowed to play in the Olympics going back for the past 9 years. 9 years ago was the World Cup of Hockey. That was the last best on best hockey that we've seen. The last time Canada lost a best on best hockey game was 26 times ago or something like that. Sidney Crosby was undefeated until last night. These players care and they're willing to put it all on the line. You saw that with the Tkachuk brothers and JT Miller. The intensity not only in this USA-Canada game, but in Sweden-Finland, another rivalry. 3-3 going into overtime. Both teams get chances. Mikael Granlund, overtime winner. Both these teams care. The amount of intensity in this quote-unquote all-star game or whatever you want to call it, props to the NHL, props to the Four Nations face-off. Glad the World Cup is coming back too. Best on best hockey is always so much fun. I'm someone that preeminently covers hockey. I could do all of them, of course, but do my stuff for the Rangers. It's been a lot of fun, and these Four Nations face-off has been awesome. And you compare that with the NBA, the Skills Challenge, Rising Stars, Dunk Contest, All-Star Game where they don't even try. All-Star Games today, I'm recording this on Sunday, will probably be out on Sunday or Monday, depending on when I get to it. Just a drastic difference, and props to the NHL. But speaking about this USA-Canada game, like I said, walk into your trap, take over your trap. And that's how I'm going to start this off because that's exactly what the USA did. The USA matched the level of intensity that the Canadians brought in every asset and doubled it throughout the game. The USA was better in line changes. They were better in every shift. They were better at even strength. They were better at the power play. I know neither team had a power play goal in that game, but after Connor McDavid scored that goal 6 minutes in to give the Canadians a 1-0 lead in the Bell Center, it would have been very easy for the U.S. to fold. Canada's a really talented team, have probably the three best players in the entire NHL, and Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, Sidney Crosby. They are loaded. But the U.S. is loaded too, and they showed it once again. And the biggest thing that stood out to me was this level of intensity. And I think it starts with the Tkachuk brothers. Zach Werenski put it really, really well after the U.S.'s 6-1 win against Finland on Thursday night. In the NHL, it sucks playing one Tkachuk brother. Imagine having to play two, but on the same line. And that's exactly what the Tkachuk brothers have become. They talk about it all the time playing together, and they finally get to on the biggest stage. Brady, biggest game of my career, he said on Thursday. Matthew, I've been waiting for this game for 9 years. They set this bar of intensity, and the U.S. has followed. And these guys are pests, but they're pests in a good way. And, dude, I can't even express how much because they play 110% all the time, and they bring in results. And then you talk about this U.S. team that's probably the best U.S. team that we've ever seen. 1980s captain, Miracle on Ice, Mike Eruzione, said that this is the most talented team I've ever seen with the U.S. And really, you look at this, and I'm not going to deny it. Again, I'm young. I'm 22. I haven't watched a lot of U.S. hockey. I haven't watched a lot of best on best U.S. hockey. But if I'm comparing this to the 2016 team, it's so much better. Think of all the lines, right? the Kachuk brothers, and Jack Eichel, superstars. Then the second line, Austin Matthews, Jack Hughes, Jake Gensel. Matthews and Hughes, number one pick, respective superstars on their team. Jake Gensel, 27 goals for Tampa Bay. He's the fourth biggest scorer for the Americans since 2016. I'm pretty sure. Fact check me on that. He had two big goals last night. First one might have been a softie on Jordan Binnington, but I'll get to that in a second. And you just keep going down and down the lineup. JT Miller had 100 points last season. He's on their third line. Dylan Larkin is near the top of the league in power play goals. He's on the fourth line for this U.S. team, had the game-winning goal last night. And then you talk about the defense, Adam Fox, Jacob Slavin, Charlie McAvoy, Zach Werenski, all guys that could be point-per-game defensemen. Yeah, it's just so much fun to watch. And the biggest advantage the U.S. has on any team, not named Russia, and luckily Russia's not in this because then the U.S. wouldn't have an advantage on them there, it's goaltending. And you saw that last night. Connor Hellebuck's one of the best goalies in the league. He won the Vezina Trophy last year. He's going to win the Vezina Trophy again this year unless something goes wrong. And his matchup is Jordan Binnington. Jordan Binnington has not been so good since that 2019 Stanley Cup Blues run. And you see this very early on. Like I said, it would have been really easy for the U.S. to fold. But Hellebuck made some big saves. When it was 0-0, he made a point-blank save on Mark Stone. He made a few more as the game went on. Then you talk on the other side. The first goal that Canada gave up, I think Jordan Binnington would admit it to softy. Jake Gensel hit him 5-hole. And yeah, that's the biggest advantage. You see this against any team that the U.S. will play in this Four Nations face-off, right? Against Finland, Jussi Saros hasn't been good. Kevin Lankinen was really, really good against Sweden, but the U.S. didn't play him. I doubt they're going to play Finland again. I'd put my money on Canada. When the U.S. plays Sweden on Monday, I wonder if it will be Hellebuck again. They might go with the backup because the U.S. has nothing to play for. They're already in the championship game. But no matter who any team puts out there, the U.S. has the goaltending advantage, and that's why they're in this position to win, and that's why they've only given up 2 goals in this Four Nations face-off, and it speaks a lot to their intensity, too, and the fact that their defense has been playing really well. Jacob Slavin's been the best defenseman in this tournament, and look, he's been like this for years. The Carolina Hurricanes superstar, one of the best defensemen in the league, always been able to stifle people. Yesterday, it was McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, Sam Bennett, Sam Reinhart. I'm not going to name the entire Canadiens lineup. We know the Canadians are so star-studded. Slavin was great, and all the Americans were great. And like I said, they set the tone a few seconds in with the Kachuk brothers and JT Miller getting into those fights, showing that they care. And Mike Sullivan said it in the locker room after the U.S. just released a video. Nobody's going to doubt that they don't care because they care. And that is awesome. That's awesome for any hockey fan and any sports fan because I think the entire world was tuned into that game. USA-Canada hockey has been one of the biggest rivalries, not only in hockey, but in sports. And once again, they got a really big one yesterday, and the United States won. They walked into Bell Center and pretty much shut up the Canadians. And I'd bank on them playing again on Thursday in Boston. This time around, the Canadians will probably be with Cale Makar again. Canada with a regulation win against Finland on Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern. They get into the finals, so it might be U.S.-Canada again. I'd like to see how the U.S. plays against Sweden. I expect Chris Kreider, the Ranger, to get in. I had to mention that. He hasn't played the first 2 games. Yeah, this team's just got to stay healthy. Matthew Tkachuk, he said his injury is not something to be concerned about, and there's nothing keeping me out, I'll tell you that. But like I said, the U.S. has clinched the championship game, and I like their chances no matter who they face because they have the best goaltender and the best intensity. And second and last, let's talk about the thing that happened a few days ago. I put it on my TikTok too, but Aaron Rodgers is officially not coming back to the Jets. Sometime earlier this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, all these days look the same to me. The Jets released a statement. Aaron Rodgers will be playing elsewhere. The Jets will be moving in a different direction with their quarterback. My first reaction with this, and I put it on my TikTok, am I upset about it? Yes. Do I understand it? Absolutely. Aaron Glenn and Darren Moogie, first-time head coach, first-time general manager. Having Aaron Rodgers brings a lot of baggage, and just shipping him off, even if it means a step back in competitiveness, it gives Moogie and Glenn a little more time to work with, and it will be interesting who they get week 1 as their starting quarterback, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I am upset about it. Aaron Rodgers, third all-time in passing touchdowns and passing yards single season in Jets history. 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 90 quarterback rating, almost 4,000 yards. That is really good in the standards of Jets quarterback lore. The New York Jets have not had a quarterback since Joe Namath. That's just it. But why were the New York Jets bad? Culture, 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 coaching, coaching, coaching. They were not coached well. The players did not want to play for their coach. When Robert Saleh left, the defense took a really, really drastic hit. They went from the number one defense in the league to somewhere in the 20s. They were not good. And like I said, they were outcoached every game, whether it was Robert Saleh or Jeff Ulbrich. The New York Jets were not a good football team. They were a very talented roster. There were 10 people on that team that were all pros at some time in their career. Aaron Rodgers, Quincy Williams, Quinnen Williams, CJ Mosley, Sauce Gardner, Hassan Reddick on the offensive line, Tyron Smith, Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. They're not all pros, but they both are stars. And nobody's denying that. The New York Jets would lose the game inside the dots because they wouldn't match the intensity and they lost the coaching battle all the time. Aaron Rodgers was not the biggest problem on the New York Jets, but he was a problem for sure. There are some games where Aaron Rodgers was not good, right? They lost 10-9 at home against the Denver Broncos. 9 points is never going to cut it. They didn't score a touchdown in that game. 31-6 at the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, the defense deserves the majority of the blame for that game. The Cardinals opened it up with three straight touchdown drives, but 6 points is never going to win you the football game. I could point to other parts where Rodgers was not good enough for the New York Jets to win, right? After they went up 15-6 against the Steelers on Sunday Night Football, the Jets folded, didn't score the rest of the game. Went up 21-10 against the Seahawks in the first quarter, second quarter, didn't score the rest of the game. Seattle came back and won. Jets started slow in a lot of games too, right? San Francisco, Tennessee. Tennessee, they won that game, but they started slow. New England sort of started slow. That's not Rodgers' fault, though. That's the defense. So maybe New England's a little bit of a picky answer. Indianapolis, they went down 13-0. They came back. That's on the defense in the fourth quarter for sure, but don't start games slow. Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old, injury liabilities, all that. He's still one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league, and he's the most talented quarterback the Jets have had in so long. I can never forgive the New York Jets for blowing this because you got one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time and one of the most talented football players of all time. I don't care if he's 40. I don't care about the injuries and all that stuff. The injuries, look, 2023, I thought was more of the year when Rodgers was healthy, and Achilles injury is really, really hard to come back from. But it's on the Jets for not having a quarterback behind him. Zach Wilson should not have been the backup. And then Zach Wilson gets thrown in 4 plays in. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, and they still won 7 games. If it's Tyrod Taylor or Jameis Winston or even a Joe Flacco, I think the New York Jets, not a playoff team. I'm not going to call it that, but I think they win one or two more games because the Jets, with that elite defense in 2022 and 23, were playing with the worst quarterback play in the league, and they won 7 games. It was the complete opposite this year. Aaron Rodgers finished in the top 15 in the NFL in touchdowns, yards, quarterback rating, all that stuff. It didn't matter because the defense wasn't good. And like I said, they got out coached every game. Now, with Aaron Glenn, the thing that I've said on this episode, and you're going to hear it from everyone, he is so widely respected around the league. He knows how to set a culture and set a tone. That's what the New York Jets need. As a first-time head coach and general manager, which is what Aaron Glenn and Darren Moogie are, I understand moving on from him as you go to set this culture. But you doing that while sacrificing competitiveness. This is a quarterback league. Was Aaron Rodgers the answer? No. What is the answer for the New York Jets in week 1, 2025? For me, I want it to be Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. I think the Jets will trade up, but they'll never do that because I just think this organization is a bit too incompetent, and Moogie and Glenn will not make a big swing like that. I think Justin Fields is a fine answer. I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't be excited with it. Keep Garrett Wilson happy. Fields, 1 interception last year, quarterback rating around 50, which is not good. Fields has not been good in his career, but he's deserved a chance to start as long as you bring in some competition. Wouldn't be happy with Kirk Cousins or Jackson Dart or Derek Carr, honestly. Wouldn't even mind Tyrod Taylor week 1 if the Jets bring in some other young quarterback. Jordan Travis maybe down the road. But I think the biggest thing that Aaron Glenn knows is this team has to be competitive soon. Maybe not next year, but they have to find a solution. Do you wait until 2026 and be really bad this year? And I know no teams actively tank. The New York Jets have a really talented roster, and I just can't see them being one of the worst teams in the league. I think they'll win around 5 games and stuff, regardless of who the quarterback is. Do they wait for Arch Manning or Nico Iamaleava, something like that? We'll see. But I think the biggest thing the New York Jets did by moving on from Aaron Rodgers is saying we're going to build it from the ground up because the New York Jets are not an untalented football team. They have stars, like I said. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Quincy Williams, Quinnen Williams. I could go on and on and on. The Jets have really talented players. Last year, I know this is the players poll, but they had the most players in the NFL 100, or second most. I think San Francisco had more. They're talented, but the most important position in the league is quarterback, and arguably the most important position in any sports is quarterback. And that's the thing the New York Jets have to solve. And they have a few other holes too, right? Wide receiver two, Devontae Adams is probably gone. Cornerback two, DJ Reed's probably gone. You might get another offensive tackle, maybe another edge rusher. You definitely have to address the safety position. Tony Adams does not deserve to keep his job safe. Neither does Chuck Clark, but Chuck Clark's gone actually. So scratch that. But the most important thing for the Jets is addressing the quarterback. So like I said, and this is how I'm going to end it, Rodgers upsetting? Yeah, upsetting that it didn't work because the New York Jets, this is one of the biggest failures in the history of New York sports, and I fully believe that. I understand it. They're going to flip the script, and we'll see more soon. No, it was a short one today, but thank you so much as always for listening to Mozarsky Memos. Please like and subscribe and tell your friends. Next week, we'll be going into MLB spring training and a few other things as the NHL season starts up again. Rangers and Islanders both in the playoff push. Maybe some NBA too. We'll get to that and more on Mozarsky Memos.